We back, maybe. What up? Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. Um, I share here some further commentary, insight about a woman being pretty, about a woman being pretty enough, enough. Um, yes, there is a superficiality with that, but then there is also legitimacy, relevance, reason, purpose. So, again, each pretty is in the eye of the beholder, beauty, something like that, whatever. Again, and it's not a matter of like there being a specific look. Just share some basic elements of the prettiness of a woman. Uh, it's a healthiness about her, what she is eating, the energy that she exudes based upon how she's living, fitness, having a natural energy, a natural vibrancy. It doesn't have to be some Olympic athlete type of thing, but fitness, health, obviously grooming, hygiene. Ooh, I'm pretty, don't I? Ain't I the example of all that? Hold up, hold, hold up. Is it? There it is. Oh, so I'm in the woods. That's my excuse, and I'm a man. So ooh, double standard, chauvinism, righto, kind of. Um, but those are the basics beyond what her face looks like. Additionally, so health, healthiness, what she's eating, and particularly coming from a plant, ital, livity. That we see that energy. We see the difference between a predatory energy and an herbivore energy, and it's not a superiority thing or whatever. It's like a natural thing. There's less of an offensive, aggressive. All right, I'm just gonna leave it out. And it's an energy. You don't have to say anything. It's just a vibe. Um, so it's not a necessity. I'm just saying it's there. It's a thing. It's actual. Um, so health, fitness. Doesn't have to be super athlete or whatever. Just a fitness. And yes, I am exactly again the epitome of that sarcasm. Um, but that's legitimate. And then the third thing I said was hygiene, grooming, and additionally. So that's just basically taking care of oneself, cleanliness. Because what is shown in these elements is a woman's ability to be a proper nurturer for her children. Um, Knowing what to feed her children, the vibrancy, keeping her children healthy, knowing the nutrition, being active when children become toddlers, being able to keep up with the children, being able to exercise when children are running off, being able to catch the children before the children get in trouble. So that's just basic pragmatics. Grooming, obviously knowing how to take care of the children, changing diapers, um, keeping house, and additionally, is that chauvinism? It's sacred work. It's chauvinism not to value that. What are you talking about? So that's shown in how she presents herself. So those are some of the basics. Um, Another one is modesty. How much of her sexual prowess she reveals, because that shows how much she is conserving her vitality for the sake of providing that power for the sake of raising her children, the energy of the home that she resides in. So not showing her navel because that's sacred. That's her womb. That's where her child grows. So that's another element. Those are four big things. And again, it has nothing to do with a woman's facial features. Height, and body type, all those are superficial type of things. For some people, it might have further relevance than others. I mean, if we're talking about in an urban metropolitan kind of culture, those are comparatively inconsequential. Um, if we look at the significant differentials of height in terms of like a human experience or humanoid experience, civilizational experience, oftentimes the height differential, people who tend to be shorter, oftentimes live in higher altitudes. And one of the reasons why the height is shorter is because it's easier to climb up large inclinations and deal with altitude, so perhaps somewhat further in that respect. But it's easy to climb when with when has a lower, when legs are shorter. So some of those aesthetics tend to be an indicator of one's relationship with nature and the habitat, and are less applicable when dealing with post-industrial occupations that are less agrarian. So the relevance of those aesthetics or the relevance of those physiologies um, is tempered by the contemporary circumstances of the individuals respectively. Excuse me. Why am I coughing with that? Now, when it comes to other things, eyes, hair color, hair texture, nose. Well, nose is actually similar to what I described in terms of, excuse me, feet. I mean, obviously, someone has a big nose, particularly when we're talking about African nose. That's again dealing with the nature of the air, the humidity, and additionally, so these are functional elements. Um, Eye color, hair color, skin color. Well, obviously, skin color deals with further implications in terms of relationship with nature, often referred to or perceived as a connection with agrarian type of occupation rather than clerical types of occupation. Um, Different types of applicability within the contemporary conventional circumstances. So that's depending upon each individual's own proclivities, expectations, family situations, and otherwise. Um, but particularly with me being mixed, from my perspective, there's beauty in each of those phenotypes. So, and again, all different types of appearance in that respect. So, the ones I mentioned are primary joints. That tend to be universally applicable. Now, the two other things that I consider sharing at this moment, half past midnight. So I'm saying that for the record. Waidabunga. Okay. Audi. All right. So I mentioned before in the recent joint I just recorded that at this moment, I mean, it's been through the ages, but um, this is natural beauty. This is natural pretty. And within traditional culture, that is what is emphasized. That is what is championed. That is what is valued. That is what is prioritized and encouraged. Now, obviously, there are many ways in which a woman can accentuate her physical beauty, her physical prowess, her physical influence. Makeup and all different other types of stuff. So, that actually detracts from the vibe. It can be very influential in attracting men who concentrate on the aesthetic, but you can consider what type of men those are, and what the kind of values and ethics and support such men can be expected to share. But typically, men who are further have genuine interests and a genuine prospect for genuine support for women, put a high value on the natural aesthetic, on natural beauty. So, and again, it goes into vibe. It goes into vibration. When a woman has on, I won't say I could say artificial accentuations. She's playing a front, and there's an insecurity there because there's a barrier. There's a facade. There's a veil, and she's playing a role at that point, and she may eventually intend to reveal that and show herself, her natural self, once she feels she can trust a man accordingly. She thinks that he's gonna continue to be committed to her, or she may intend to continue and know that he knows eventually, like if they get married, and additionally, like she just regularly puts on her face every day, but that's how she is. So, okay, that's actually not the point I'm getting to, but I mean that's relevant. I mean it's valid. Um, Point is that when a woman and a man are involved in that type of facade, it detracts from the natural vibration. It detracts from the natural attraction between the man and the woman. Just the primal essence of the man, the primal essence of the woman. It gets caught up in a lot of the pretenses, the mediators, the intermediaries, and that need to be maintained. She has to get that makeup. That's a budget item right there. And whatever else she does to accentuate her sense of beauty, and whatever else she does that he feels the necessity for her doing, has to be maintained. So that becomes I won't say a crutch, but there is a certain amount of subjugation to whatever that accentuation is. And that can always be a detriment to, I mean, it can cause stress. It's just another thing to have to worry about paying, where to get it from, and limiting what other things can be done. Travel, vacation, spending money on other things like education for the children or otherwise. So all that factors into it. Again, that's not the point I'm getting at. Two other things. One is that within recent generations, a significant amount has been placed upon a significant amount of emphasis has been placed upon women being professional, having careers, being independent, and in that trope, part of that methodology involves, just to be honest, and that we can reason about this, but it involves women wielding sexual influence to gain advantage in those paths. Doesn't mean she's having sex with everybody here and there, whatever, but utilizing her sexual influence in an advantageous way to get a job, to get acceptance, enrollment, scholarship, and or otherwise. That sounds crass, but this is part of the game. So there's an increasing emphasis about women portraying and perpetrating the aesthetic for the purpose of sexual influence, and men falling for it. And that's not taking any onus away from men, but just these have been the de facto and the de jure patterns of expectations in a relationship between men and women in a conventional sense. Not all around, not everybody, every way, but significantly normalized. Point being here, basically, that that's a difference between a sexual aesthetic and naturally pretty, and how being sexually attractive in many ways has usurped the methodology or the actuality of being naturally pretty, so that those are the expectations of both men and women. Those are the standards that are looked at, but it's not the most healthy. So when talking about the physical attraction between men and women, there's obviously the sexual attraction, but there's also a primal attraction that is beyond just the experience of sexual gratification. So I'm just going to go back to the healthy version. Again, healthiness. I'm not going to talk about the things a man does to be attractive. You can tell me about that. Let me know. But for a woman, healthiness, what she's eating, how she takes care of herself, genuinely, not just for the purpose of looking good, but just genuinely living healthy. Fitness, that's in addition to being healthy. Fitness, active, that exercise, when a person is getting physical exercise, the person exudes a natural energy from that activity. So there's a natural vibrancy, a natural glow from that fitness. So that's the second thing. Third thing I mentioned is was it hygiene? Grooming, hygiene. That's my Freudian nature at this point, I guess. Grooming and hygiene. Fourth one is modesty, how much she presents of herself. Um, and then there's a fifth one. Well, anyways, whoever wants can review that joint, but again, that's across the board universally. Whatever the skin color, whatever the phenotype, whatever the hair color, eye color, whatever else, all those things are universal traits, universal characteristics, qualities that do so much uh, to optimize a woman's, not just a woman's physical attractiveness, not just a woman's prettiness, but a woman's glow. So, that being said, when a woman has that glow, there's little need for the accentuants. There's little need for a woman to say much of anything, because that energy that she's just naturally exuding speaks for itself. Men are drawn to that in and of itself, and vice versa in my experience. That's a natural attraction, and it's a strong, it's a powerful thing. It requires discipline. That's the vibrations, that's fuel. Obviously, women communicate in so many ways beyond the verbal, and those ways in which women communicate, those nonverbal ways that a woman communicate, are much further strengthened, influential, say powerful, when those elements that I described, healthiness, fitness, grooming, hygiene, modesty, when those elements are strong. So one other element in this joint. Interesting when the coughs arrive. I'm connecting it with the thought that I'm having at that moment. So there's another element that is significant that I'm learning, but it's another level type stuff. But one way I'll describe it is virility. And this is a very base, not base, a very, I've been talking for a lot now too. This is actually important to recognize. Virility, fertility, either way. The point is not to get all caught up in the definitions, but the propensity of a woman to procreate, her readiness to procreate, not just emotionally, mentally, but physically, her eggs. When a woman goes on the pill, when she is sterile, obviously that is a reduction of her fertility. It impedes that energy and that vibration. So, what we can observe is that when a woman is on the pill or impairing her fertility through other means, she may have a lot of the other qualities in terms of nutritional health, fitness, grooming and hygiene, modesty. But there's a flatness because she is impeding her natural, primal, procreative self. So that vibe is hindered, it is handicapped, it is reduced. Now, a woman, well, can be observed in today's culture. A woman can overcompensate for that reduction of fertility and virility and how it attracts the attention of a man. She can overcompensate for that by being further immodest, by showing further about her physical prowess, by being sexually active, so that by being further suggestive and further seductive, even without showing her physical prowess, but just how she engages a man, and verbally communicating or through other nonverbal indicators showing her readiness to actually have sexual intercourse, not to procreate, not to have a child, but to have sexual intercourse, so that in that communication she is stimulating other men, a particular man, to have attention towards her, to have an interest towards her, even to have sexual interaction with her. But what type of man? What are his intentions? If he is attracted simply to the physical aesthetic and the prospect of sexual intercourse, and not the prospect of procreation, what are his intentions in terms of caring and providing for her afterwards? Now, again, in today's post-industrial mindset, there might be the immediate reaction, she doesn't need him to take care of her, this and the other. They both need each other. Sex is a cipher for life. To endeavor and intend sexual intercourse without the intention of caring for each other for the rest of life, that's self-destruction. So when a woman adjusts herself to attract a man for that reason, by taking the pill, by being infertile, and by further accentuating her sexual prowess to attract the attention, the energy, the interaction, the sexual intercourse with men, it's unhealthy. It's self-destruction on both part of the man and the woman. So it's simply a matter of being mindful of that. What I've learned is that I mean, there's so much power and energy in the seed of a man. There's so much power and energy in the seed of a woman. We can look in the animal realm about how animals deal with that power. It's overwhelming. We can talk about a cat being in heat. We can talk about an elephant being in must. People, the animals go not stir crazy, but um, fertile crazy. That's how powerful that energy is. And it exists within people too. The post industrial tendency is to expend that energy before it gets to that point. Because when it does get to that point, people become increasingly vulnerable to manipulation, to being taken advantage of, because people can see that person has this urge. And so if this person has this urge, then this person can be, or is increasingly susceptible, vulnerable to being led astray, teased, thirst trapped, or otherwise, man and woman. So, side point, or midpoint here is that it seems many, particularly young men and young women, have forgotten about the potency about fertility and how that factors into attraction, how that factors into attractiveness, and how to cultivate that, how to respond to that, and the difference between sexual attraction, particularly when there's sterility, particularly when there's not intentionality of long-term commitment and care for each other. The difference between sexual attraction and fertility attraction. Feeling the vibration of the fertility with between the man and the woman, within the man and within the woman. And in that respect, what the further point is that when a woman does, well, obviously the woman is on a cycle, a monthly cycle, so it's less of a voluntary experience. There's so much fertility that she experiences at a certain point. When she's younger, the levels are way high, and as she matures, the levels reduce. Same thing with a man, but perhaps at a different slope. But a man has a propensity to stack up his fertility beyond the monthly cycle. So what is observed, what is experienced, is that when a man does stack up his virility, and when a woman is cultivating her natural fertility, her natural beauty, and presenting it in a favorable way, in a potent way, again, humble, subtle, modest, there's an experience where the seeds of a man can sense and feel the vibration of the seeds of a woman. It's like the essence of the earthly power of a man, which is his seed, communicating to the essence of the earthly power, the primal power of woman, her seed and her womb. There being communication, and the man, I'm speaking from experience, personal experience and respect, so I can't speak universally, but the man, when having discipline, having a mindfulness and awareness of this communication, again, is a vibration, point being for all that is another means, it's another experience of attraction. Pretty. Um, that has very little to do with looks per se. So those are some considerations for any woman. We can talk about spiritual beauty, a lot of which is involved in those first four elements that I described, even beyond just any experience of fertility. A woman who is chaste, humble, modest, nurturing, kind, respectful. There are stronger ways to a man's heart than through his eyes or even his senses. So, anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's see if I can finish up. This one is 1 a.m. now. All thanks and praise to the Most High. For the revealing of truth, for the humbleness of consideration and processing, for the endeavor of articulation and making relevant and beneficial for others, for discipline, for guidance and support. We also provide thanks for the guidance of His Majesty Haile Selassie and Her Majesty Waisaroman, an earthly example of a relationship between man and woman, husband and wife, king and queen, who share sacred heavenly purpose and earthly sovereignty, and an example of the balance, the perfect balance of man and woman working to serve the well-being of others. Altruism. So we give thanks. Blessed love and peace in Rastafari.